Warning, the following video may contain imagery and file language that may be unsuitable for small children. Viewer discretion is advised. Before the vid begins, however, I'd like to give a huge shout out to Izuku Midoriya, King Yellow, and playz, 3 awesome YouTubers who have been helping me out for the longest. So please go and make sure to subscribe to them. The link to their YouTube channels are going to be in the description below, so make sure you go subscribe to those 3 awesome YouTubers, and let's get this video started. Family Guy is one of the most recognizable adult cartoons in the world, and today I just decided to review one of the later episodes in one of the later seasons, so let's get started. The episode starts off with Brian as he makes his way out of the house. After being assaulted by most of his family and the people at the bar, he meets a young woman named Jess, who we find out has cancer. After talking for a bit, they head back to a hotel where they have sex. After the session ends, Jess explains to Brian all the places she wants to have sex, and after a short montage, Brian introduces Jess to the rest of the family. After a bunch of tasteless cancer jokes that weren't very funny, by the way, Brian takes Jess out to eat at a restaurant. After exiting the restaurant, Jess falls faint in the parking lot. Upon arriving to the hospital, we hear some devastating news from Dr. Gravitas. Yes, a very clever joke that we'll return to in a minute. But anyways, Dr. Gravitas tells Jess that she only has 2 weeks to live. Upon hearing the news, Brian proposes to her. While making preparations for the wedding, everyone throws in their sort of like 2 cents or a reaction towards it. For example, Stewie tells Brian that he's only marrying Jess because of the cancer. Lo is actually putting Brian up on the local news to be broadcast towards everyone. And Quagmire actually putting aside his differences with Brian to actually throw a banging bachelor party. And even Peter offering to give Brian his old wedding dress to wear at his wedding. In the next scene, however, while eating at a cake shop, Brian is approached by 3 women who want to give him their phone number since he's marrying a girl with cancer. While delighted to hear the news, Brian is unable to contact them since he's marrying Jess. By the way, this never comes back up later. Anyway, let's get into the marriage scene. The next scene is that of the wedding. The ceremony is beautiful while everyone is giving their tearful reaction, Brian and Jess even writing their own vows. Dr. Gravitas bursts in at the last second to announce that Jess is going to live. And then the episode goes downhill. No, seriously, the rest of the episode is just stuffing her face with food and just making a bunch of fart jokes. I could mention the fact that Brian couldn't be bothered to get out of the relationship because he's stuck with Jess since it's all over the news. But even that part was just filled with Jess farting and stuffing her face on the local news, and I was just like, oh, for fuck's sake. I mean, seriously, is this the rest of the episode? And then they just try to like shout out like the apartment manager when Brian was staying over there since he got kicked out. They were just trying to like showboat the apartment manager, like, hey guys, remember this guy? And it's like, I really don't care. We've already seen him in the past episodes. Do you really need to freaking showboat him around? I mean, I get he's a side character that we haven't seen in a while. And then they try to just like live up this whole, isn't that something to flip your biscuit part, where it's like, come on, man. They're just trying to live up this catchphrase that just died episodes ago. I mean, seriously, come on now. Anyway, I'm sorry for that little rant. It's just the fact that like they just try to shove in a bunch of stuff towards the end of the episode, and it just doesn't live up to the hype. Anyways, let's just wrap this up. The next scene is at a taco place. While Jess tells Brian to go get her some mild sauce and stuffing her face with tacos, she starts choking. Brian comes back, notices that she's choking, and then proceeds to look up how to do the Heimlich maneuver. Great. And makes jokes about it. Great. Jess ends up choking to death, and then the next scene is at the funeral. Brian says his final goodbyes, and then Jess just comes back to life. And it ends with Brian crying like Snoopy. Yes, that's how the episode actually ends. And let's get into the joke part of this video. Isn't that great? Anyways, let's get started. In terms of the actual jokes, I thought some of them were actually pretty decent. I like the Dr. Gravitas joke, and I actually did enjoy the joke with Peter throwing himself like a boomerang. That was actually pretty funny. And like I said earlier, the Gravitas joke was actually pretty funny. I actually like how they kind of replaced him with Dr. Hartman for the more serious tone. I actually like that joke. The rest of the jokes, however, were not funny. I hated the beginning jokes where Brian was just trying to talk the lingo and all that junk. I hated that. I also hated when they were trying to make jokes at serious moments. Like I said earlier, Brian was making jokes while trying to look up the Heimlich maneuver, and then he made jokes after Jess had died, such as trying to hate on Fox for trying to stretch their empire, or whatever the case may be. And when he was dragging Jess after being fainted, there was a joke made about him moving his car. Yeah, these jokes are just coming at the wrong times here. Anyways, I thought most of them were just pretty unwarranted and pretty unfunny, and I thought like at least 2 of them were okay. Anyways, let's get to the character part of this video. Let's get started. In terms of the actual characters, there's only two I really want to focus on, and that's Jess and Brian. The rest of them were just kind of there, to be honest with you. Stewie gave his 2 cents, but he didn't really do anything. He just said what he had to say, and then rubbed it in when Brian was at the apartment. That's basically about it. In any other Family Guy episode, Stewie would have just gotten his just desserts, or he would have just gotten his revenge on Brian. Here, he just said his 2 cents and just got on with it. All the other characters were just there as well. It just felt like they weren't really doing anything, to be honest with you. It just felt like they just gave their reactions and just kind of moved on. They didn't really do anything. In terms of Jess, she was actually a pretty decent character for the first half. Then they destroyed her in the second half. I swear to God. I mean, the first half was actually pretty decent. She was a nice girl. She was actually a pretty decent character. And then the second half, oh boy, did they destroy that character. Jesus Christ, what have they done to her? They just made her fat, unlikable, and they just made her a whiny bitch the whole time. It wasn't a good look for her. In terms of Brian, he was just a douche. I mean, for starters, he was only marrying her because of the cancer, and Brian actually did seem caring for the first half. Then he just kind of just didn't really care much anymore. I get it. She wasn't the best character in the second half, but he didn't even really try in the relationship. He just kind of sat there doing nothing. And I feel like they just wanted me to feel bad for Brian towards the end, but I just felt more hatred towards him than anything. He just tore any shredded dignity I had left for him. Anyways, that's all for the characters, to be honest with you. Jess was really the only decent character in this episode. All the rest of them were just either not doing anything or just, well, nothing, to be honest with you. Anyways, that's all I have to say about the characters, and I'm going to get into my final thoughts on this whole episode. Let's get started. So, what are my final thoughts on the whole thing? It was more disappointing than anything else, to be honest with you. I mean, the plot could have been a lot better and dealt with it in a better way. Like, for example, Brian could have been arguing with Jess before she died, so that way it was more heartfelt. Or he could have been arguing with her, she could have fainted, and then, he could say his last final goodbyes. More of like a heartwarming moment. Instead, they just made her unlikable, and then they just killed her off and then brought her back again. That was really unnecessary. Brian didn't really even learn his lesson throughout the whole thing. He just got away with everything. The mother didn't question whether or not Brian actually helped Jess. None of that. He faced no consequences for his actions. The whole episode just felt just bum rushed for no reason. They should have just had her die to cancer. I find it ironic that they were going to kill off Jess with cancer. Then they just bring in the good news, and then they kill her off anyway. I just find it so ironic that they did it like that. Anyways, that's all I really have to say. The episode itself, I would rate it about a 2 stars. I was going to call this the worst episode of Family Guy ever, but then I just realized it was more disappointing than anything. Jess was actually a pretty decent character, like I said before, but then they just destroyed her. Anyways, that's all I really have to say. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you like the content, please make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. This took me a while to edit and record, so please make sure to like and subscribe if you already haven't. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, everyone, be safe out there. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go get some aspirin because this was a doozy.
Hey, might I Pinterest you in a drink .0? Oh my god! Oh my god! You can't hurt anyone anymore.